Can a career in the military lead to a successful transition as an entrepreneur? For Matan Gavish, it certainly has. He's a former Israeli Special Ops Commander turned entrepreneur. He's the CEO and founder of FitHit, a combat fitness school and lifestyle program which equips men and women alike with self defense techniques which build up fitness, self confidence, and mental fortitude. He joined me this week to discuss the program, the school, his career, and so much more. I'm Kevin McShann. Let's have this conversation. Matt, and if you're ready, I'll welcome you to the program, and I'm excited to talk to you about your fitness and business journey this afternoon. Thanks so very much for being here and great to be with you today, buddy.
Thank you, Kevin. Happy to be here.
Matt, and I'm wondering if we can start you off by asking you about your journey to becoming an entrepreneur. I know that you've spent some time in the Australian military and you sort of pivoted to being an entrepreneur. So I'd love to, before we dive deep into your business and fitness journey, I'm wondering about your personal story as well.
No, absolutely. So, yeah, in 2002, I think it was when I graduated from the military. That's back in Israel, and within just a few weeks, I decided to move to New York City without really a plan, just to see what the world has to offer. And one of my first jobs here was a fitness star. So I came with a lot of fitness background, a lot of fighting background from my military service. So I managed to find a job as a trainer, but very very quickly, I figured that I can start developing on my own, and I enjoyed it. So I took the risk and decided to venture out on building my own thing. It turned out okay.
I'm wondering also about your personal mission in starting a business. I know FitHit's all about equipping men and women alike with self-defense techniques that build fitness, self-confidence, and sort of giving them empowerment. So I'm wondering if you can explain about your mission with the business as well.
Yeah. So that's a great question, Kevin. Thank you. FitHit is the idea behind FitHit was a little crazy. So I come from a background of Krav Maga, and Krav Maga is the Israeli military hand-to-hand combat system. So it's a very aggressive way of fighting. It has no rules. There's no competitions because there's no rules. So if there's no rules, everything goes, and that's a little too harsh for the competitive world. And it is designed to work in real bad situation, life and death situation. When I came to New York, I realized that what the market lacked is a is a place where people that don't aspire to be fighters, people that are not violent, not aggressive, they are not looking for that type of energy. They were the one that needed this information the most, right? So the people that are afraid, that are timid, that are not ready to really get into a fight, those were to me the people that needed what I knew the most. They were the most, because they're going to be the most likely to be assaulted, right? It's always the weakest links that's being assaulted. So Fit Hit was created in order to give a place for regular people that don't want to be fighters, the environment, the supportive environment, and the fun environment, and the safe environment to learn those skills. And to be able to do that, we had to attract them not with the fighting aspect of it, we had to attract them differently. So we attracted them with the fitness benefits. So when people come to us, they come to lose weight, they come to get their nutrition in order, they come to get their lifestyle in order, look good, feel good, and so on. And then on the way, they get to pick up a very, very important set of skills of how to handle themselves in bad situation. And we were able to address the needs of that market by providing a gorgeous facility. Of course, before COVID, we pivoted online this year, but we did open a beautiful 9,000 square foot facility that is welcoming, a beautiful community that help you grow. And then we put all that together to deliver what is Fit Hit today.
Absolutely. Sounds like a noteworthy mission. I'm curious also to get your thoughts on some inspiring stories of inspiration that you might have. I know that you train everything from people in the military to police to regular citizens. So I'm wondering if you may have a couple of stories that you would want to share on the positive impact that you're making through the endeavor.
Sure. So when I started, I didn't start as Fit Hit. I started as Krav Maga Academy. Like that's how I called my very first school. It was called Krav Maga Academy. And because I came from a military background and I knew military and special ops and all this, I focused primarily on the law enforcement community. So I had a lot of cops, a lot of security people, like those were my clientele. I trained NYPD and so on and so forth. But even then, I really, really wanted to teach the most vulnerable. And I wanted to teach women. I felt that women are the most vulnerable and they're also the one that are least likely to do this recreationally. And I remember one young woman, this was right in the beginning where I started. And she was a client of mine. She was taking my training, and she came in 100% for the fitness benefits of it. She wanted to lose weight, she wanted to look good, she wanted to feel good, and the self-defense was just an added bonus. But when I spoke with her, like more in depth, I asked her, okay, you're telling me that it's for fitness, but like, what is it really about? Like, why are you doing Krav Maga for recreation? And she told me that something bad happened to her. She came out of the subway. In New York, people are coming in and out of subways on a regular basis. It was late at night, and some guy jumped her. He held a knife, scared her. He held her down. Was very violent with her, and only by the grace of God, some people passed by, and he got afraid of those people, and he ran away, and it really shook her to her core. So then she started training with me, and we trained for about 6 months together. And what happened after 6 months, like you can even make that up. She goes back home late at night, and the same guy at the same place jumps her again. 6 months later, the same dude.
Talk
6 months
about
later.
coincidence, huh?
It's a terrible coincidence. But what he didn't know is that she
Absolutely.
spent the past 6 months getting ready for an event just like this. She was with her girlfriend. The girlfriend was slightly drunk, and she literally pushed the girlfriend out of the way, kicked that dude smack in the groin, punched him right in the face. He went down. She kept kicking him in the head until he passed out. And the girlfriend was the one who was like carrying her away from this poor dude that probably needed medical attention. And she called me up at 4 in the morning. She's like, "You're not gonna believe what happened. You're not gonna believe what happened." I was like, "What happened?" She's like, "The same dude just jumped me again, and I beat the shit out of him." And thank you so much. And she was a 5'2", 110-pound girl that has never been in a fight in her life. But as things happen, right? She got sold at the same place by the same dude, 6 months apart, and it looked very different from the first time to the last time.
I got you. It sounds like you're really making a positive difference. And I know that you've mentioned your military background a couple of times. I'm curious to know what transferable skills do you think from your military background has helped you be a successful entrepreneur?
All right, that wonderful question, Kevin. So I can say that I come from a special ops background. I was a Krav Maga officer and fighting officer basically, and combat fitness officer for a special ops unit, and gone through their entire training. And one of the most important things that you pick up during that service is not just the physical element of how to fight and how to deal with bad things, but it's really the mental fortitude that that comes with solving problems that you might consider to be unsolvable, right? At the extreme levels of human aggression. And when you start applying that same mental fortitude to everyday life and to things that are happening every day, you see that you can get over what most people think is tough or unsolvable or depressing or difficult. Those things don't phase you as much because you're looking at them through a different lens. And it's a lens that forces you to recognize the opportunity in the problem and to recognize solutions that might not be obvious.
And I'm curious also to ask you, how do you think everyday regular people can develop a consistent and reliable fitness mentality, which they'll stick to and stay devoted to as well?
Right. So, consistency, Kevin, is probably the number one problem in people's fitness journey. Everybody has worked out once, twice, a month, 2 months, 3 months. Most people have taken some sort of a diet or some sort of a nutrition attempt to change their bodies for the better. And what most people would experience is what we call the yo-yo result, right? What's a yo-yo result? You go hardcore on something, training, nutrition, and you see some good results. And then you don't stay really consistent with it, or it stops working, you hit a plateau, you move a little bit sideways, you take a pause, and then you lose all of the benefits that you've gained during this hard program. And again, you hit that low again. So what do you do again? You get back on the horse, you try again, you try maybe a different nutrition, a different exercise, but kind of like the same thing. You see some results, and after a couple of months, you go right back to square one. The reason is because consistency is very difficult for people to develop on their own. What we do to solve it, to make things more consistency, is implement a high level of accountability. So when you do things yourself, it's very hard to stay consistent because you could always find something more important, more interesting, or more fun to do than working out and working on your nutrition. Most people, it's easy for them to find something else to do that doesn't require the effort and the pain that sometimes come with training. In fact, not just regular people, everybody. If you think about the best athletes on the planet, what every single one of them have? They have a coach, right? They have somebody that holds them accountable and gives them the strategy to be able to be better, right? To be able to perform on the higher level. So if it's the best basketball player of all times, which I know there's a whole debate of who that person is, and of course it's Michael Jordan, but some people say others.
That's another story for another day,
That's
right?
another. But guess what? He also had a coach, right? And he was
He
coached
did, yeah.
every step of the way. There is a coach that sets a strategy to make sure that he excels, and uh, and that coach holds him accountable to high performance, right? Best runners in the world, they have coaches. Best tennis player in the world, they have coaches. So the level of accountability or the idea of accountability is something that for some reason ordinary people thought that they could do without. But if the best athletes in the world need a coach to be accountable to you, of course you would lose that battle, right? Because you're not even the best athlete in the world. So what we do is we provide the coaching and accountability on a very high level to make sure that anybody, no matter where they start from a fitness standpoint, can get on the horse and stay there long term. So when you see the results, they stick forever.
Yeah, consistency breeds success, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Not just in fitness, but also in business.
Absolutely. And I'm also curious to ask you about sort of having a snapshot of your own personal accountability. And what I mean by that is, uh, when I look at fitness, I always tell myself if I'm active at least 10 minutes a day, then I'll be more apt to sticking to it because it's short, it keeps me accountable, and it allows me to be physically active at least for a certain portion of my day. So I'm curious to get your thoughts on uh, uh, providing yourself your own personal accountability as sort of the 10-minute rule, at least getting 10 minutes of physical activity a day.
Right. So I get a lot more than 10 minutes a day in physical activity. I
I
force myself
figured that.
yeah, to do a lot more, but I can tell you that it doesn't come as easily or as naturally as people might think. Even though it is my profession, it is my business, and I'm immersed in it 24/7. I still need to get over the hump of getting up and doing things. And the way that I do it is that I connect it to basically my daily hygiene. So everything that needs to happen in a day that I consider things that have to be done, the workout becomes a part of that. So I talk a lot about, people brush their teeth every day, right? Like they would brush their teeth every morning, even if they don't have to meet somebody that day, or even if they don't this, right? It's a part of them that has been ingrained for many years from childhood. And I always say this is like the first time that a person has been met with coaching and accountability is brushing your teeth. The coach was your parents, and if you didn't do it, they held you accountable to it, right? Did you brush your teeth every night? Did you do it? Did you do it? Did you do it? And what happens is when you have coaching and accountability, that small habit sticks forever, right? That's the beauty of it. It sticks forever. So what I'm doing is I am connecting my fitness regimen into my daily habits that are non-negotiable. So everything else has to get built around it. Especially when you run a business and you have a team and it's very easy to get lost in the entrepreneurial journey. I can work for 24 hours straight or 48 hours straight or 72 hours straight. I've done those stretches of work where you can't even find a minute to invest in yourself. And the more you are in your mission, the easier it is to stop investing in yourself. But what I found was that the more I invest in myself, in my well-being, the better I show up in my business. So I make that a priority, just like brushing your teeth or doing your taxes or having a meeting with your CFO or having a meeting with people on your team or any other important element of your success that you're committed to. I connect fitness right to it. And it goes into my schedule. So I schedule the workouts. So I cannot schedule anything on top of that. And I like to start early in the morning. So I usually start and here's, I like to talk about brushing my teeth because I know that I have to brush my teeth at some point. I schedule my first workout before I brush my teeth. So I can't even brush my teeth before I'm done with the workout. I connect it to my hygiene. Okay. And because it's important to me to be able to brush my teeth, I have to earn it.
I gotcha. Hey, I'll tell you, for every podcast, I hold myself accountable, and I brush my teeth too. And if it isn't in my schedule, I don't do it either. So I'm all about keeping a consistent schedule for sure. So I can relate to you in that way as well.
Yeah, so that's one way of keeping accountability. And the second one is I actually use my team members to hold me accountable because I'm surrounded by coaches all the time. So I have my own coaches within my team that are on top of me and making sure that I get the training. And we hold them accountable too. That way my team also gets to continue developing and rise and become fitter and happier.
Well, if we all row in the same boat, we're in the happier societies for sure. I'm curious, since you brought up your team a couple of times during our discussion. I'm curious, you had mentioned earlier about pivoting to a more virtual setting for your business model. I'm wondering how COVID has affected your business in that way, and whether uh, you're seeing different approach to conducting a business in the age of COVID these days.
Yeah. So for us, the pivot and the change have been very aggressive. So 100% of my business had to change. Before COVID, we have just recently launched and opened a brand new 9,000 square foot brick and mortar facility in Manhattan. And we launched it in January with the mission of replicating that across the country. Like that was the original business plan, right? Is to open up one beautiful facility, do a killer job with the delivery, then replicate it. That was January. 2 months later, we had to close in March because Manhattan was the hardest hit back then.
Yeah,
Um,
it was the epicenter. Yeah.
it was the epicenter, right? That's where it started. We got JFK. You got tens of thousands of people coming in from all over the world every single day. So there was a lot of traffic. But long story short, because we were the start, and there was also governing agencies that created a very strong lockdown right from the very beginning. Gyms were not allowed to operate for a very long time. Okay, so from the moment they shut us down, we had to make a really hard pivot to either not existing anymore because what we've created, like the dream of what the fitted experience is, could not happen anymore, right? Like that dream is now not legal, right? Like it was like we were illegal to operate in the way that we like to operate. And by the way, it's been almost a year. It's still illegal because FitHit is a class format, and classes in fitness are still not allowed in New York City. You're still not allowed to run a fitness class. So if we were to hang out and wait until the government has figured their shit out and allowed us to open, we would have been out of business within just a couple of months. So our pivot had to be very aggressive and very, very fast. We didn't have a lot of cash reserve. We had about 2 weeks of cash, and we had to figure out the pivot within 2 weeks or decide to close forever. Um, but we did a very, very good, smart, aggressive pivot into the online world and created a program that doesn't just give a class and a fitness element to it, but have a very high level of accountability and an entire mental fortitude curriculum built into the program. And then they also have the fitness side. So now instead of fitness being the lion's share of what we offer, it's actually a smaller amount of what we offer. And then on the back end, um, habit building, community, strength, elevation, creating goals, accomplishing those goals together, giving people the strategies and the tools to actually go at it the same way I learned special ops and then implement it into my own business.
Well,
So
I commend you for being nimble and figuring out a way to survive for sure. It hasn't been easy for a lot of businesses, so I'm happy to hear that you're doing well and being able to be so flexible in these unprecedented times. But Metin, as you know, I was born, I shared with you before this started, with spastic quadriplegia cerebral palsy, which simply means I don't have enough oxygen in my legs to walk normally. So I'm curious to ask, just out of curiosity, how do you think people with physical disabilities specifically can remain physically active and physically fit? considering their limitations physically.
Well, I can tell you, Kevin, that having worked with a significant amount of people with disabilities, uh, the first thing that I recognize in a person in disability is that they're already used to working 10 times harder than anybody else on every other aspect of their lives, right? Not just fitness. Okay, so because there's some disability, some disadvantage, at least the people that I've worked with, right, they've achieved greatness on their own by not letting the physical impairment define them, but they know that they have to work 10 times as hard to reach the same to reach similar goals. So because, well, most people with disability are not strange to hard work in order to accomplish anything, right? Because of the situation. Now it's a matter of tailoring what can they do and then make sure that they do it, right? So the idea is to make sure that so if I'll take you as an example, if that's cool. Can I use you as an example?
Absolutely, yeah.
Right, Kevin. So before I would make a broad statement about what everybody with disabilities should do, I would add questions, for example, um, and feel free to share whatever you feel comfortable. But if I ask you, Kevin, what are some things that you cannot do? So where is it that you are limited in when it comes to mobility? Would you share that with me?
Yeah, no problem. So, because of my disability, I can't stand for long periods of time, and when I walk, um, the lactic acid in my legs doesn't allow me to walk long distances sometimes without being winded. So, in a way that I can back that, before the pandemic, I went swimming a lot at my local community pool. I also have a group of support workers that regularly stretch me out so that I'm not as spastic or as tense. So to answer your original question, it's for me, it's standing for long periods of times and endurance as well.
So standing and endurance are the two things that you are, right? So when we know where the limitations are, then we can start building a plan that works around it, right? So if standing for long periods of time is something that's difficult, then we would look for activities that do not involve standing, right? So there's a lot of things that you can do with resistance. It might be resistance bands or some free weights, light free weights, to move the upper body if the upper body is in a better shape than the lower body. You can do some very, very basic calisthenics, from exactly going up from sitting down to standing up, to sitting down to standing up. So these are just ways for you to continue training. It doesn't require a tremendous amount of endurance. And you've mentioned swimming, and I found that swimming is a great solution for a lot of people that can't fully utilize their legs. In fact, one of my very first clients in New York City, he was he was a man that was paralyzed from the chest down. So he didn't even have the rotational movement. He was paralyzed from the chest all the way down. It was a result of a car accident, a very unfortunate, destructive car accident. But he wanted to learn Krav Maga and how to defend himself. So what I had to do is I had to figure out how to recreate what we do without the use of the legs at all. He's confined to a chair, right? And without the ability to even rotate, which is at the basic of almost every punch, there is an element of rotation. Um, so I would recommend for anybody that may be listening or may be disabled to take the time and invest in some professional guidance, because what you get when you have a professional is somebody to tailor it to your specific needs. And I think, you, Kevin, you have your own needs, and other people that might be in a similar position have different needs. And the investment in a professional that will like cut through the bullshit for you and just tell you, all right, you can't do this. Let's test a few things and then build out around that. That'd be my best suggestion. It'll be better than going at it alone. We talked about the importance of coaching before for athletes. We talked about the importance of coaching for regular people, but um, people that aren't suffering from any physical impairment. And then we're talking about people that are suffering. everybody could use a professional coach. All right. So if you're in that position, trying to figure that on your own is very hard. It's hard.
Yes. Sometimes I think we could all use a professional coach both in fitness and in life. So I can agree with that as well.
Yes.
Yeah, so Matt, my final question for you is once your professional life is over and your personal, you have some time to reflect, what do you think you want your personal and professional legacy to be?
My mission is to reduce victimization. This is what drives me. Reduce overall victimization in the world, and equipping people with the tools to, one, never be actual victims, and two, never see themselves as victims. Victimization is twofold, right? Victimization, there's a physical that happens when somebody else forces something on you that you don't want, but victimization is also a mindset that a lot of people subscribe to, and they don't have to. So if I could look back in my life and see hundreds of thousands of people that will never be victims, that to me would be a legacy worth having.
Absolutely. It's a noble legacy, and I want to wish you the best of luck with it. And if people want to get connected with you personally or with FitHit, how can they do that, buddy?
Sure. So you can catch me on Instagram. It's Matan's Method on Instagram. And I bet you, Kevin, I could probably share a link with you later on when this is posted, and maybe people will be able to click that link if they want to connect with one of our coaches. Would that work out?
Absolutely. You can just shoot over the link via email, and I'd be glad to share it. But I want to thank you for your time this afternoon and providing me some insights into your personal fitness and business journey. Really enjoyed our conversation and really thankful for the insight you provided. And I want to thank you for being here and for your time this afternoon. It's most appreciated.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate you and your time.